Is it happening? It's happening. It's going live.
Going live? Are we going live? That's us. It's
Going
us.
live with Tooltip Tuesday coming at you
Mistakes. It's us.
through the intertubes.
It's
Yep.
me, Jennifer, from Little Metal Foxes, and
Julia from Little Metal Foxes. It's
here we
happening.
go. All right. And here we are. Hello. Welcome back to Tooltip Tuesday with Little Metal Foxes. And make sure you hit the like button. Yay. And subscribe and all that stuff so you know we're live. And yay. So Julia, I've got a casting for the small studio coming up, which I know you know because you were here casting yesterday with me.
I was. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. I'm so excited about my rings.
And just to let you guys know, the casting setup that I use, we were doing it on this little piece of protective surface here. That's how big the casting area is. And I had my little kiln set up over here. So beehive, a beehive kiln for casting. And we cast 7 rings, which Julia has with her, in
Yes,
sterling,
I have them over here.
2 flask. And because I can get 2 little flasks in the beehive kiln at a time. So we were able to cast and do that. So very exciting. And I love the fact that I can like put it all away. I have a little rollout cart and all my casting stuff fits right there. Yeah.
That is so nice. Like your beehive kiln is on the bottom, right? That's the yellow one.
Beehive kiln is
Oh, it's over there.
on the shelf over there, but like the vacuum stuff and
Hmm.
pumps and the vacuum table and all my casting equipment's on that little rolling cart. So I can like roll it right out of the way and I've got my countertop back. So I don't have to have, like the big industrial stuff or big production kiln or any of that to be able to cast some do some lost wax casting in the studio.
Right.
And I really want to encourage people that are that have a small studio and are able to, really just want to cast a couple of, small rings. You can do it on a budget for, under a couple of $100. You can get, a vacuum table set up, be able to, do your investment, be able to make molds, to be able to, cast
Right. Yeah,
stuff.
so you can make your master,
Mhm.
right? And cast your master. Like these were all, again, like your Mitsuru wax. I mean, I made these with Jennifer's new Mitsuru Hikime wax, and it was so delicious to work with. My hands were very cold compared to yours, so she ended up having to give me a votive candle to like warm the wax over because I have cold hands apparently, because her hands are hot. But once we finally got that figured out, and then I was able to work, and I made all these rings, and then you sprued them up for me and invested them and did the burnout, and I came over yesterday and we cast them. It was great. And now a couple of these I really like, and I'm like, oh, I could make a mold, and then if I want to send them out to have them professionally done, then I can have somebody else do, the heavy lifting and cast, hundreds of them or whatnot.
But you
But making the model, making the prototype
are making
Making the
models,
prototype can be so nice because it's so quick, so iterative.
especially for Mitsuru, because Mitsuru is so fragile that it's
Right,
nice to have the luxury to be able to do it in your own studio.
right,
So, but
right.
one of the things that we've got, and I've got the casting solutions for the small studio that we taught right before Christmas, that sort of goes over some of the tools and equipment and stuff for casting in a small studio. But we're going to be doing the casting class coming up at the beginning of February. And one of the things that came up while you were talking to one of the students in Open Studio Access was she's in a very humid environment and was like, how do I keep my investment from going bad?
Right.
Keep it dry.
Well, and in addition to the fact that she lives in a humid place, she was like, well, I can't find less than like 44 pounds or 20 pounds or like she
Yeah,
was gonna have to buy a lot of
right,
investment. And she's like,
right.
crap. Now, if I can't buy a smaller quantity,
Yeah,
what do I do?
right.
You know?
And we solved that problem, fortunately. But I want to show you the proper way to store the investment because that can make a big difference. I would definitely recommend not buying more investment than you're going to use in a year. I mean, that can be a lot of investment. But if you know that you're going to be casting just, some really small flask, 5, 10 pounds of investment will last a long time. And if you are not storing it properly, it can go bad over time because
Yeah.
basically what happens is the moisture just from the atmosphere that gets into the plaster can
Hmm.
condensate if it's not in a stable temperature room. If it gets hot and then gets really super cold and then gets hot, you're going to have problems with a lot of condensation in the investment and it's going to go bad.
Hmm.
So, first of all, make sure you're storing it someplace that's, relatively cool and dry and a stable temperature. Don't
Right.
put it like in your attic or in your garage, that's going to get hot and cold. I mean, if you
Hmm.
have a basement, actually, that's a little more ideal because it's more of a constant temperature. But you want to avoid freezing it, and then because that can change how the investment actually sets up. It gives it all kinds
Okay.
of weirdness. So just kind of keeping it, cool and dry. If you can keep it at like a regular room temperature between, 60 and, 80 degrees, you're going to be a lot better off,
Hmm.
Fahrenheit. But this is what I usually do because the investment comes usually in bags and or a bag inside a cardboard box, which is not the best way to store investment for the long term, right? Because, paper boxes are not, all that when it comes to being airtight. So,
Or watertight.
or watertight, yeah. Or not even airtight. They're just like,
Right.
especially watertight. But
Right.
and it's notorious for absorbing moisture. If you've ever
Right.
had a cardboard box in the basement, you know that it just absorbs like all the moisture from the basement. So the investment that I'm recommending for the class is the Prestige Oro investment, which is great for gold, silver, brass, bronze, all that good stuff. And you can get it in like a 10-pound bag from some of the jewelry suppliers, but you can definitely get it on Amazon in smaller bags. And I
So
have
so basically what you're saying is keep looking until you find a 10-pound bag.
yeah,
Even if you're going to pay a little bit more,
yeah. And
it's
it's not really
better and you're going to end up spending less than if you buy 20 or 44 pounds.
or
Yeah,
50.
like per
Yeah,
pound cost might be lower, but you're going to throw away half of it. And so ultimately your per pound cost is twice as much.
yeah. So don't expect if you've inherited some investment from your grandfather and the investment's, 25 years old, let it go, right? So get some fresh investment. You may have all kinds of weird problems with the investment setting up properly if
Right.
you've got something that's like partially activated and
Right.
it will activate in the powder form and you don't know that it's ruined because it's already activated and done. It's not mixed with a ton of water, so you don't have like that rock hard investment
So
because
it's still powdered,
it's
but
still
but
powdery.
it's not good anymore.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And so
So,
it won't set up. And so if you mix that with water and pour it in, it just won't set up around your piece.
yeah, and sometimes it'll set up like unevenly and you get all kinds of cracks and weirdness. So it
And
can
so
go,
then it ruins the piece that's in it.
yeah,
Like you can't just like pour it out and rinse it off and start again.
you could, yes, you can do that, but that's, you know,
Really
you
difficult.
don't realize it until you cast, you know,
Ah, and then it's too
but
late.
that's too
Then you
late.
have crossed. That's a Rubicon you cannot uncross.
Exactly right. So yeah, get rid of the old investment. But with
It's like
this,
yeast. You want the yeast to be fresh, and
yes,
it might still work, but do you really want to risk the bread that you're going to go to all that trouble to make? Because you're not going to know until you've put the damn thing in the oven.
true. So with this, what I usually do, I just went to the hardware store and got a couple of gallon container that's airtight for paint. So this is great because it will keep paint from drying out, right? So it's nice airtight container, and that's like part one. Because the investment, like I said, it usually comes in plastic bags, and once you open them, even if they're resealable or have a Ziploc thing on top, you're still going to have air, seeping in. So, yeah. There we go. All right. So in my bucket, I usually keep my little scoop for scooping the investment. And what I've done inside of here is I've got I'll take my bag and kind of fold it back And then you can see the investment is the top has, I roll it down, push out all the air and clip it. So it's nice and closed and tight, right? Then I'll take the trash bag liner and I will push out all the air and take this guy, push it down, and then start to twist this. So it's nice and tight. So I pushed out all the air, so it looks like a little bit of a vacuum inside the bag. Push that down, and then I'll tuck the tail down the side like that. So it's nice and tight and closed. Then I can put my scoop in there and put the top back on. I usually use with this one a rubber mallet.
But before you put the lid on,
Yeah. Right? So airtight. However, yes, Julia, you've got a great solution. So I'm going to open this back
well,
up.
we were talking about this again. We were talking about it in Open Studio with a student who was like, I'm going to have to buy all this investment. How am I going to keep it dry and it's moist here and whatnot? And so, yeah, I was like, well, you definitely need a bucket to put it in. Like, you don't just keep it in a cardboard box. But then I found this guy. So I'd had one of these when I was in the Peace Corps in Western Samoa, which is very wet. I had a camera. And so when I had bought my camera and I was buying film, I had bought a little canister like this to keep in the Rubbermaid bin that I put my camera in to keep it dry, right? Because if you get moisture in a camera, it can grow mold on the lens and or it can rot the shutter. You know, they're all like mine had a cloth shutter, so it can rot the shutter. And in really humid tropical environments, camera equipment is really at risk. So I had a little carton of this it was this chalky stuff that it went from blue to pink, and I kept it in a big Rubbermaid container with my camera and everything in there. So that's why when I was talking with the student about this, I was like, oh, I know the photo companies are going to have these, right? And so I got this at B&H Photo Supply, which is a wonderful company. They're really good. They have really good stuff. I've bought other things from them, like, you know, this kind of
What
stuff
is
to
it?
hold cameras. Huh?
What is it?
What is this?
Yeah.
It's desiccant. Sorry, did I not say that? So
No.
this is a rechargeable canister of desiccant.
Okay.
So it has, you can't really see, but they're orange colored little beads that are inside, and they'll go clear when they absorb water. So you can take this and just pop it right into your bucket. Pop it right in. I'll just pop it right in over to you. And then when the little beads go clear, you can take this tin and put it in the oven at 300 degrees Fahrenheit for, I don't know, it says how many hours. The instructions are on the inside. 300 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 3 hours or until the color returns to the silica beads. And then you've recharged it and then you can reuse it, right?
Right.
And
So
this is designed for 3 cubic feet of enclosed space. So this is very tiny and it will only deal with small amount of space, but that's all you have. You have a small amount of space in your
this
bucket.
is about 1 cubic foot.
Well, it's probably about 2 cubic feet because it's a little bigger than you think, or no?
Maybe two. It's like 1 foot by 1 foot. So I'm guessing that's 1 cubic foot.
Roughly. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, but it's no bigger than 2. Let's put it that way. So
Oh, yeah.
this would be about perfect for that
Right.
space. Yeah.
Right. And
And I,
if you're keeping it sealed and in a stable temperature environment, that's going to last a long time.
mhm.
No, because there's not going to be a ton of excess moisture in this. Plus,
Right,
you've only got this much space of
right, right. It's not a whole cubic foot of space.
right, right. So
Exactly.
so the nice thing about that is it's rechargeable, right?
So you heat it and you just drive the moisture out. And then once it's cool, you don't want to put the hot thing on the plastic. Once it's cool, you put it back in there. Once the beads have gone back to orange, and different ones have different colors
Yeah.
indicators. So for example, I have this one, I have these two that we have in our cars. These are a bit more expensive. This one is for 300 square feet or cubic feet, and this one is for 600 cubic feet. This is 3 by 6, and this is 3 by 3. The beads go from pink to blue. So when they're blue, and you can just sort of see them through the little holes, you can kind of see the color. When they're blue, they're dry and ready to absorb liquid. And then when they go pink, you bring them in, and again, you put them in the oven and you cook them at 300 degrees for 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
Um,
You guys might be familiar with these because Julie, you were saying you can find them at like Cabela's to keep them in
right.
gun safes and places like that for tools, to keep them
Exactly. So
dry.
places that sell firearms or sell ammunition are probably
Uh,
going to carry stuff like this because they used in
uh,
gun safes a lot to keep firearms dry. That would
not,
not be what I would use them for,
not,
but at least they're available and they're not redonkulously expensive.
yeah,
And this one, I think this one was like $8 or $9. I mean, what I love about this is the form factor because it's so small. It's perfect. Like this is a bit bigger and and
yeah,
it's a bit more expensive. Um, there are also some, you can get them on Amazon. I've seen them on Amazon, and some of the ones on Amazon, they're designed to open the little tin and then you have to pour the beads out onto something and heat them to dry them. And I'm like, that sounds way too fiddly for me. Like, I'm just going to end up with that stuff everywhere. I want something that's sort of a self-contained unit that I can just put this in the toaster oven or put this in the oven and not have to open it or fiddle with it in any way. There are some that are different colors too, like green and orange. Like this one, it goes from orange to clear, but I've seen some that go from orange to green. They're all the
yeah,
same stuff. They
yeah,
just have an indicator in it that will help you know when it's ready to,
right,
to
right.
recharge.
And you can get one of the tricks that I've always used is, speaking of the desiccant though, is using something like just a little, jam jar, right?
Right. I was really impressed. You said that you got that desiccant from,
You can get it from any of the craft stores that have, because they have it for drying out flowers and things.
okay.
And so you can buy silica gel desiccant in a bag, and that way you can like put it in your car, put it in your closet, put it in your what in your investment with your tools, and you can make little pouches with it. Some of it is rechargeable that you can get, some of it's not, and you can definitely get it on Amazon. And but basically what I do is just put a little bit of like canvas or fabric on the top, and
Hmm.
I'll always date mine. So if you've got the kind that's rechargeable, it'll change colors so you can kind of see it in a jar. But this is real easy to, throw in and off you go. So there's, all
But with
kinds.
that one, but with that one, there's no color indicator that tells you when it's absorbed all the water it can absorb and can no longer absorb more
Yeah,
water.
not with this one, but
Not
I,
with that one. So you have to kind of pay attention and you have to have some kind of symptom, some kind of, system for like, oh, I need to take my desiccant out, dry it out, put it back in like every three
yeah, yeah.
months or something.
So what I would probably do, just as a standard practice, is make sure I've got a fresh one, put it in with my fresh investment, and then when my investment's gone, renew it, put it back in with the new bag of investment. So as I'm going through, I can know that I'm constantly keeping that nice and fresh because it's such a small space, and it's easy peasy. But yeah, you can order one, you can make one, but it's having a system to keep your investment clean and dry is protect your investments.
Exactly. Protect your investment.
Protect your investment. So yeah, put your desiccant in with your investment, and then just if you've got a Rubbermaid or like a Tupperware container that burps, those are really good because they actually like force out excess air and moisture, and so that's going to be a big plus. This one I usually push down just to make sure it doesn't have any trapped air in there, and then as I seal it, yeah, it just forces, I can see this, the lid is sunk down. So I know that I've got an airtight seal on here, and I don't have any excess air. But I usually keep this, under the cabinet where it's, constantly the same temperature. And so now it's, sealed, airtight, got a desiccant and inside an airtight container. I've seen, seen some stuff, Julia. Um, you know,
You have, as
if
with your many years of casting. I mean, this is the thing. It's like, listen to Jennifer, listen to her,
yeah.
right? Because
So
she's been doing this for decades.
So, yeah. So,
You were starting to say you've seen.
I've seen some stuff with investment with it going bad and trying
Mhm.
to, backtrack what the problem is. Because if you're doing exactly the same thing every time, and I have always used a casting log, so I know, exactly what I'm doing the same way every time. So if, the water temperature is wrong or the investment is not the right mix or, whatever it is, especially in a production casting house, you have to know exactly, how much investment you're adding, what temperature everything's at, making sure everything goes exactly right because you're casting a lot of stuff for other people. And, it time's money. You don't want to have to like reshoot 150 waxes and then reinvest it all and
Through them.
up. And yeah, so it can be, a huge,
Mhm.
huge problem if your investment goes wrong. So one of the things that I would avoid, because I've seen this happen, is that if you're keeping the investment like in a storage area that is going to drop below freezing,
Mhm.
at some point, and then it's going to be shooting up to over 90 degrees, those areas are going to screw up your investment because your temperature range is not um
It's
is
not
actually going to
constant.
it's
It's
not
not
constant, but it's
consistent.
going to
Yeah.
cause condensation inside
Right.
the
It's going
container
to suck, it's going to suck moisture in as it does that. Yeah.
as it freezes, and then when it warms up, it's going to release all that moisture that it's been having, into the thing. So that's when your investment goes wrong. It cracks, it won't set up properly. And like I said, a lot of times you won't know it until it's coming out of the kiln and you're like, what happened? So yeah, it's a really good idea to work better with fresh investment, with stuff that's been stored properly, that's dry. Because like I said, if it is exposed to too much moisture, it will set up in a powder form and you won't know it until you are, and it won't do it all the way through. It'll do like the top might do it, and then the bottom's okay. And then when you get down and like mix it, some of it's set up and some of it's not. So it can,
No, it sounds awful.
yeah, it
Yeah.
can really mess up your investment. So just, make sure you are not, like I said, storing it like in the attic or out in the garage, where it's going to get, hot and cold, the
Huge
environment.
temperature changes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But the desiccant makes a huge difference. And I hadn't seen the ones, uh, I've seen the ones for the gun safe, but I've never seen them used for something like this. And I think it's brilliant. It's a great idea, Julia. I love the idea that it's rechargeable.
Well, I just love, I love it's rechargeable.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that it has an indicator.
yeah,
See, I love that it's a whole self-contained thing,
yeah.
right? Like I'm not having to open it up or fiddle with it, right? I just put this in the toaster oven and or the oven. Now, you do want to do it by itself, right? You don't want to put this in the oven when you're cooking something else, because when you're cooking something else, there's going to be all this moisture in the oven, and it's going to make it an oil and thing. And so it's going to make it hard for this to do its job. So I'm just saying, do
Yeah,
this, like a toaster oven is that's what we normally do with these is we'll because these are for our cars, right? Pacific Northwest, right? I had a 27-year-old Toyota Corolla that I just finally had to give up, and I had one of these in my car, and it made a huge difference because the seals began to give up around the door, and you just get in and out of the car all the time. You're just dragging in wet leaves and moisture on your
you're
shoes.
breathing in your breath. You've got so much moisture in your breath.
Exactly. Or you get into you've been walking in the slight drizzle and there's a bit of moisture on your coat and you get in and you sit in the seat and now it's been absorbed into the seat and you get out, you leave that moisture in the car,
Yeah,
right? Yeah. So we would bring these in and heat them up in the toaster oven for the required time. This it says 325 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 hours. This one it says 300 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 to 3 hours. Same company.
but one does.
You have to let them cool down until you can touch them because they can be hot. Let them cool till you can touch them. But once they're back to blue, then you put them back in the car and you just wash, rinse, repeat, right? It makes a big difference. Keeps the car from getting that kind of weird musty smell that none
Yeah.
of us love.
Well, the thing I hate is when especially in cold weather like we've got right now, and you get
Oh,
that much moisture in the car, and then the inside of your
it
windows.
freezes on the inside of your windshield. I have had that happen, and I always kept a like an old t-shirt rag in the car because I would have to like wipe. It was an old car, right? I had it for almost 3 decades, and I'd have to physically be wiping the moisture off the inside of the windshield
Yeah.
because the defrost couldn't
Well, and if
handle it.
you've got a dog like I
And
do,
then there's that if you have a dog like you do.
yeah.
Yeah, there's
So
even more things to drag
he's
moisture into
wet,
the
and then he
vehicle.
sits there and he's like on the windows, and So, yeah,
So yeah.
teaming up
So
with,
yeah, rechargeable desiccant is a great way to go.
yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely. Well,
Check
thank
out.
you
Well,
for sharing that.
I'll put the link for the one that I found at Cabela's and then this one. So the link for this one and the um from B&H Photo, and then Cabela's has one this size basically. But
Okay.
it's I
How
think
much?
this was about $8 or $9. I think this one at Cabela's was in the 20, I want to say 24, 34 range. Not terrible.
What's this, the cubic footage on that one?
300. So this is a good size for a car.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
again, an ounce of prevention is worth a, what is the rest of that? An ounce of
Pound of
prevention worth a
cure.
pound of cure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, wait, what's the other? A pound of, sanding or cleaning or whatever it is that you're trying to do to repair the problem, right? Like, you want to protect your investment, literally. Or if you're trying to protect your steel tools, that kind of thing. It's like you want to keep the moisture away from them before they get rusty,
Oh, yeah.
because after they're rusty,
The
they
other
may
thing
be
I saw
ruined, or you would just have to take a lot of time to
the
fix it.
other thing I saw recently, and I have, and it brought back this like memory of like old toolboxes, and they have like a smell to them sometimes that I didn't realize what this was. And there was another jeweler or mechanic or somebody, and he was taking camphor cubes and putting them into the toolbox, and I was like, what? And so you can buy these little, they're like desiccant kinds of
Well,
cubes,
camphor is mothballs.
but what you do is that you put like this little thing into the toolbox, and
Yeah.
the camphor, as it like about starts to
Volatilizes, right.
evaporizes, actually coats your tools in a micro fine layer of oil, and it keeps them from rusting. And I was like,
Interesting.
what? And
Oh, I
so
guess because camphor is a plant. It's an oil.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And so I remember seeing like old toolboxes that had this little thing, and it was like, what on earth is that thing? It's like it stinks, and I'd throw it away. And but it was like from a million years ago. But it used to be one of those things. It was common practice to
Hmm.
put like a little. You can buy little camphor. Um, it's like a camphor desiccant
Okay.
into, yeah, you can find it on Amazon, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, he was showing why that was kind of a good thing. So anyway,
I did not know that. I'm sorry. I was confusing. So camphor is, I think camphor, like, so mothballs are actually naphthalene. So I'm using the
really,
wrong word. Yeah, I believe so. I believe that's
okay,
right.
yeah,
Um, but camphor is another one of those things I think that has been used
like
to
eucalyptus.
discourage moths,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's used a lot. A lot of the packaged ones are from India, you'll see,
Mm-hmm.
and it's one of
I
those.
imagine the camphor trees grow there.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
almost like a eucalyptusy sort of, yeah.
Yeah. So camphor is a white solid with a strong fragrant odor. There are many reported uses for camphor, including to treat colds and congestion. So like the Vicks Vapor Rub has got camphor in it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
To protect against illness, for pest control, as an air freshener, and in religious ceremonies. So,
So they
yes,
use it as an incense and as
right,
tea and yeah.
right. Okay, so let me see here. Camphor and mothballs are both used to repel moths, but they differ in composition, toxicity, and other uses. Camphor is a natural oil, while mothballs are traditionally made of naphthalene. I was correct about that. A chemical that gives mothballs their characteristic odor. So camphor is non-toxic, but can be toxic in large doses. Mothballs are definitely toxic to mammals if they're ingested. So, but anyway, there you go. In terms of keeping basically what you're saying is in terms of keeping tools safe, keeping the water away from the tools, you can either keep the water away from tools by absorbing the water in the space with something like a desiccant, or by putting a camphor block in there, which coats the tools with a thin layer of oil, which then is a surface protectant as opposed to removing the moisture from the air, which
Yeah.
makes sense if you're in a humid location.
I think it does both. It sort of like absorbs moisture and volatilizes. As
Okay.
I think that's sort of what he was saying in the video. But
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, if you've got, especially stuff that's in long-term storage, use both, just put them
Yeah.
in like airtight bins so that you've got, I mean, you can buy like a box of these little cubes and just, yeah, if you've got some tools you're putting away or,
But do not, if you've got tools you're putting away, do not coat them in WD-40.
no, no, no.
Because I know somebody who she was going to another country for some number of years and she like carefully took plastic wrap and like coated all her tools in WD-40 and wrapped them in plastic wrap and she came back and they were all covered in rust because WD-40 is actually hydro
Topic.
hygroscopic. It will absorb moisture. I mean, because its job is to loosen up nuts and bolts and stuff. Like it has a different, it's not a protectant. It has a different job, which is to loosen stuck things.
Yeah.
Um, but she was very, 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 very sad because like all of her mandrels, all of her files, everything completely covered in rust. So no WD-40.
No. And Vaporust would solve that problem.
Maybe. I think it was so bad. I think the problem was that they'd been stored for long enough that it wasn't just a little bit. It was like really badly degraded and pitted and like the surfaces were ruined, really. I mean, you get enough rust on a file and there's not teeth left. It's just oxide,
Then you turned it into a burnisher.
maybe.
Anyway, well,
Anyway,
thanks for your tip. I appreciate
yeah,
it.
it
Good
was
one
good. And
today.
I learned something too, because I learned about using camphor
Yeah.
yeah, which is cool.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Make sure you join us for our next tool tip on Tuesdays. And you go back and watch some of the other ones if you like. We've got almost 200 now. So yay. And make sure you like and subscribe and continue to and if you ring, do a little bell notifications, you'll know when we're live like now. Julia, did you see any questions on the YouTube?
I don't know. I don't have that open. So if there are questions, we will answer them later.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. And if you have a tip that is great for keeping everything dry and grease free and safe and without rust, and keeping your keeping your investment dry, let us know. Put it in the chat below because we would love to hear what your solutions are to
Exactly.
everybody wins when you share information. So, all right. Thanks, Julia. We'll see you next time on Tool Tip Tuesday. Bye, everybody.
Bye.